Hey listeners, I've got a story that's taking the North American news cycle by storm about wildfires, trans-border air pollution, and a political threat that could change trade relations. The headline is simple: President Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on Canada because smoke from millions of Quentos. I'll walk through the key facts and give you the context you need, without the fluff. On a quiet Friday afternoon, President Donald Trump posted a message on his social media platform. In it, he accused Canada of failing to manage its wildfire response, saying the US was being conquersaged by filthy, polluted air that he described as dangerous and totally unacceptable. Trump added that he would call Prime Mark Carney on Saturday in Coca to discuss the issue and, if necessary, retaliate with tariffs. Why is this happening? At least 200 wildfires are currently burning across Ontario. Those flames are one of the world's largest for the season, and their smoke has spread far beyond Canada's borders. Cities across the United States, New York, Detroit, Washington, Chicago, have experienced hazardous air quality readings in the past few days, and the slated spread of smoke across the eastern coast has raised serious concerns for public health. The Republican criticism of Canada's forest governance is not new. Earlier this month, a handful of U.S. lawmakers echoed their frustrations, blaming Canada for not doing enough to prevent or mitigate these fires. The tension escalated when, on Thursday, SS Prime Minister Carney didn't directly address the accusations. Instead, he said the United States needed to do more, to combat climate change, something scientists warn is fueling larger, longer, more ferocious wildfires. Nevertheless, Canada's fire management leadership has stepped up to defend its policies. On Friday, Mr. Carney's office released a statement. Canada's Emergency Management Minister Eleanor Olszewski acknowledged the smoke problem but blamed it on a changing climate, citing data that Ontario and Quebec received less than 40% of their normal precipitation in June. She also noted that higher-than-historic temperatures were making conditions drier and more conducive to fires. Furthermore, Olszewski reminded listeners that Canada has poured significant resources into prevention. Since 2020, the country has spent approximately 12 billion Canadian dollars, which is a little over $8.5 billion US dollars, on forest sustainability and fire prevention. That's a huge mulch built to keep the next generation of wildfires from getting out of hand. Now check out what happens on the Canadian side of things. The Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, was visibly frustrated with the complaints coming from across the border. He told reporters that when Americans complained of wildfire smoke, Ontario had stepped in with support, water bombers, coordination, drone reconnaissance, outsourcing the assistance into the regional conversation. If there's some politicians out there chirping away, you should send support, not complain, Ford said, pointing out that Ontario had already done exactly that for its American neighbors. The back and forth between the Montreal-based government and the Washington-based executive might sound like a political drama, but it has real economic implications. Tariffs could cost Canadian exporters from Ontario, especially lumber, agri-goods, and energy products, in time useful. Conversely, America may face higher costs for Canadian-produced goods, harming industries that rely on those supplies. The consequences stretch beyond economics. The smoke itself is a transboundary problem that forces emergency agreements, public health advisories, and discussions about climate policy into mainstream policy. The issues are undercutting the possibility of a credible solution until cooperation across borders is finally put into action. So for the week ahead, keep a watchful eye on any official reply from Canada's PM Phil, likely to prove that this and the next round of wildfires requires deep cooperation, not shoves and ironclad tariffs. That's the status of our story, an action-driven refresh who tinkers and cross-border air pollution across the continent. For those of you following the story as it develops, stay tuned because the next discourse will decide how we manage wildfire risks together. That's all from me. If you found this useful, go check out our full episode to dive deeper into the science, policy, and politics behind this smoke-filled saga. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.